On the birthday of the twins, the Brel family received a prophecy that a life blessed by God would come into the world, and the youngest daughter Noxia became a confirmation of these words. She grew up to be a beautiful girl with beautiful silver hair and a noble smile. Everyone around cared about her, respected her, and tried to take care of her. As a child, she showed abilities. Even then, there were skills to manage water and its elements. Everyone around called her the girl who was loved by the gods. But her sister Tanasia Breloff was the opposite of her. Even outwardly, she was completely different. Black, dark hair, as if smeared in dirty water. Her face was lifeless. No one had ever seen a smile on her face. Her eyes did not burn with joy like her sister's. And she also didn't have superpowers like her sister. Can twins be so different? Everyone around was talking about it. One of them was as if blessed by the gods, and the other was just the opposite of her. There were thoughts that they could not be sisters. No one could believe that the gods had offended the older girl so badly. She received nothing from patrons. Everything went to the younger sister. They talked about it just before the prince's birthday. This could not become an unpopular topic for gossip among the aristocrats gathered at the ceremony. And if Tanasia cannot stand their criticism and decides to leave the banquet hall, they will laugh at her even louder. The girl entered the hall. She turned to the stranger, who was talking about her, but suddenly fell silent. Tanasia asked to repeat what had just been said about her. The stranger frowned and said that she didn't say anything. Tanasia said that she caught the conversation at a stage where they were talking about the blessing of the gods that went to one particular person, and the other seemed to be left with nothing at all, and she was also interested in what was said about the second person. The girl asked the stranger what she wanted to tell people about. She began to make excuses and said that she was just waiting for a time suitable for the manifestation of her abilities and skills in the future. Tanasia said that she did not allow anyone to make her a reason for discussions, and she is not at all happy with what people are saying about it. The girl asked to stop this senseless chatter. The dark-haired woman addressed everyone present. She loudly and firmly ordered everyone to obey her. Tanasia warned that if anyone dares to say something about her behind her back, she will simply rip his mouth off. The girl will not even look at the origin or status of the one who will spread the gossip. Those present were surprised by what they heard. The girl showed character and will. Tanasia will not let anyone make fun of her. Tanasia thought about the fact that she got into the world of books. The most recent past life flashback was when she quit her boring job and decided to travel, but her plane never reached its destination. The explosion in the cabin happened immediately after it took off, and it was then that she died and was transferred to this world. The feeling was very strange. It is difficult to describe it. When Tanasia opened her eyes, she saw servants bending over her excitedly and trying to bring her back to consciousness. The girl realized that she was in the body of another person. However, what she has become will surprise her a lot. The doctor said that she fell from the horse at full gallop. Surviving after such a thing turned out to be a real miracle. And then the girl realized that she was in the body of Tanasia, sister of Noxia, and both of them belonged to the Brel family. Suddenly, she remembered a famous novel that she had read in a past life. The book was called Favorite Holiday. The plot was built on two opposite characters, two sisters who were completely different. The youngest of the sisters, Noxia, was loved by everyone and was highly respected for her natural talent and beauty. And the eldest of the sisters, Tanasia, was constantly compared with the younger. But she did not have any extraordinary abilities given by the gods. That's why Tanasia always felt like an outcast from this society. And the time came when she wished she had everything her sister had. She had an idea why God gave everything necessary to her sister, but deprived her of his attention. The girl wondered why she didn't have even a fraction of what Noxia possessed. And if it so happened that Tanasia was born first, then perhaps she would have everything, and her sister would remain an outsider. In this way, the older sister became the thief and antagonist of the novel. And so it turned out that the girl who died in the plane crash ended up in Tanasia's body. The shock of the situation was too great for her. Maybe it happened because of her passion for novels. Despite everything, the girl was happy because she found herself in the body of a noblewoman and an aristocrat. And with that, the realization of reality came very quickly. She couldn't go back to where she was. She definitely did not want to return to her past life. In that reality, She had no sense of existence at all. She didn't even have a family with whom she could just live in that cruel and unfair world. And here, the situation was not so bad. Tanasia was a beauty. Absolutely everything, whatever she wore, suited her. The heroine of the novel constantly compared herself to her sister, because of which her life resembled hell. But the current girl was not going to do that. She did not envy her sister's appearance, character, or abilities. Tanasia was a young, beautiful, and rich girl, the daughter of a prominent aristocratic family. She had the opportunity to enjoy luxury, but such light and bright days did not last long. The servants began to whisper that Lady Tanasia had changed a lot after falling from her horse, and people started disappearing in the neighborhood. There were rumors about cruel experiments. Tanasia overheard their conversations, which included gossip about the Kaula Empire. The maid was frightened, but the girl asked to repeat what she had said about the Kaula Empire. The servant told about the creation of a weapon from a living person. This year, the number of people who have gone missing is much higher than in the past 5 years. Rumor has it that they were all kidnapped by envoys of the Kaula Empire. But these are just rumors that no one attaches importance to. But Tanasia just now remembered a part of the plot, which she had forgotten before due to the joy of a rich life. It was at this time that the Arwen Empire, her homeland, entered into a bloody war with the Kaula Empire. According to the plot, Tanasia was supposed to die soon. And she will die at the hands of the main thief of the novel, Asan. He was the only one who survived the brutal experiments on human material. After research, he became the strongest man in this world. Tanasia calmed herself down. She still had time to come up with something. Asan escaped from the laboratory at the age of 15. His clothes were so torn and shabby that they took him for a slave and sold him as a servant. Since Tanasia and Asan were the same age, he had to run away this year. The girl asked the servants where the local slave market was. She needs to get here right now. The reaction of the aristocrat confused the girls. Beryl's daughter said there was no time for an explanation, and that's why she ordered a carriage to be brought. But at that moment, a guy entered the room. He said that the mistress's bath was ready, as she had ordered. She recognized the main antagonist in the boy. He had deep golden eyes, an ancient language tattoo that wrapped around his neck like a snake. The girl was afraid to ask the servants what his name was. However, you cannot escape from the truth. The boy said that his name is Asan. Tanasia could not understand what he was doing in the estate now. This was not the case in the original. According to the plot, the boy ran away from the laboratory, but there was not a word about the fact that he became a servant in the Brel family. However, the novel was not completed, so it was very difficult to find out the details, and therefore it was difficult to establish the truth and sequence of events regarding what happened. And should she now be happy that she found the enemy so quickly? Asan asked if he could be free if she didn't need anything else. The girl did not immediately understand what they wanted from her, but then she allowed me to leave her room. The boy's reaction was incomprehensible to her. He seemed to be avoiding the girl. One of the maids asked if Tanasia would really let the boy go just like that. The girl did not understand what was being said. The maid said that Asan left earlier than usual. The eldest daughter of the Brels was confused. The maid's words could mean that Tanasia had done something with the young servant before. It was necessary to find out all the details of what they were doing. She said her memories are hazy. A galloping horse did not go well for a young girl. Memory lapses occurred regularly, and some memories disappeared forever. Fortunately, they did not carry any important information about the past. Tanasia said that she will not be angry when the girls are ready to tell her the whole truth about the affairs that were common to her and Asan. On the contrary, she will be grateful for help in restoring her memory. One of the maids said that from the very beginning the young landlady did not like Asan. She often spoke ill of his black hair. Tanasia said to carry water for the bath in buckets, although you can use the tap. And when she was in a very bad mood from an early age, she used a whip to punish a nagging servant for his stupidity and carelessness. The girl understood why the boy hated her, but the question remained as to how he could return to the Kaula Empire. She could not send him there herself. In the original novel, the boy escaped alone from the laboratory and made his way to the Arwen Empire. But one day he was caught and sent back to the laboratory. Tanasia could not remember the reasons. But it was worth changing your attitude towards the boy in order to remove the possibility of revenge on his part, which was undesirable. The maid asked if they should postpone their visit to the slave market until tomorrow. Tanasia understood that she had no other chance to get a new life, and that's why it's worth putting everything in its place right away. That night, she had her first dream since entering the new world. In a dream, she saw how she found Asan slaves in the market. The ancient language tattoos that wrapped around the boy's neck were hard to miss. The boy's body was generally covered in magical formulas, which also drew attention to him. Thus, writing formulas directly on the body, they wanted to turn it into a living weapon. These were traces of experiments on the boy. Scientists have endowed the body of an ordinary person with extraordinary abilities, dangerous if you lose control over them. And then Tanasia realized that in this way, she could also gain strength that would not be inferior to her sister's strength. Noxia once learned to control water and perform various metamorphoses with this substance. However, the formulas and ancient inscriptions could allow the mastery of powers beyond even the sister's skills. This became the reason why Tanasia began to study the slave's body. Such studies were illegal, but the girl tried to keep everything a secret. The first thing she set about was finding out Asan's abilities. In the dark cellars of the family castle, the girl tortured and abused the slave in every possible way, trying to provoke him to use force. She was sure that Asan was not an ordinary person, and she demanded to show her strength. The boy steadfastly endured all the abuse of his body. The girl sometimes lost control over herself and got too excited. But one day, she noticed that the subject's body became as hard as steel. Tanasia understood that this was the peculiarity of Asan. There was also an understanding of the capabilities of such a body in a fight with people. She could win over dozens, if not hundreds of people. The girl was quite satisfied. It remained to be seen how long this effect would last. The guy asked her to stop. The picture became so unpleasant that Tanasia herself wanted to wake up so as not to see the past abuse of a person. The dream scared the girl. It was exactly the memory of what had happened before her transfer to the new body. She did not just arrange interrogations for Asan. She again mocked the boy, arranging experiments on him to reveal possibilities. And if the story turns out to be true, then the possibility that she sold the boy to the enemy empire is very high. And from this follows the fact that Asan will want to take revenge on his wrongdoer. If the plot is not changed, she will simply die. Tanasia decided to atone for her guilt at any cost. The girl entered the room where Asan was. They were left alone. The boy asked what his landlady wanted from him. The aristocrat only now noticed how carefully he behaves. She remembered the night's dream again and understood why he was behaving like that with her. But from this moment, everything will change. Tanasia said that nothing unusual would be demanded of him. However, from today, he will live in the estate. He asked if he correctly understood what the hostess wanted to tell him. The girl said that from now on, he doesn't have to worry about anything. Tanasia decided to finish writing the novel on her own and change the plot to a more positive one. She said that from that day forward, he was also becoming her personal servant. Rejection is not accepted. The girl aims to change the course of the story in all possible ways and stay alive despite all the troubles that await her. The boy could not hide his frank surprise and dislike from his new mistress. She understood what had caused this attitude and was quite sure that he could not have done otherwise. It's hard to be around a person who abused you like that, but he simply cannot not listen to her. The girl's order was a law for him. Tanasia ordered to immediately pack things and go with her to the palace. The room is already ready for him. The girl carefully watched as he gathered his modest belongings. She promised herself that she would change Asan's life for the better after he moved to the estate. He had to forget all his grudges against her and the terrible treatment he had received. Tanasia is amazed at how quickly the boy gathered his things. She asked if he wore the same clothes all winter and other seasons. The guy answered in the affirmative. The girl felt very sorry for him. There, too, it was necessary to correct the situation. The daughter of the aristocrats ordered the servant to find suitable clothes for the boy to begin with before the move. She invited a seamstress specifically to sew clothes for Asan. The boy assured that it was unnecessary, but Noxia said that her servant would not be scantily clad, and she added that from now on he should not call her mistress, but lady. She told everyone that from now on Asan is her personal servant, and therefore, When they are often seen together, everyone will soon get used to this state of affairs. The servants thought that they would keep it for abuse. The girl saw the emotions on the servants' faces, but they worried in vain. She was going to treat Asan well. To get a good ending, she should have tried. And Tanasia will do it. A seamstress turned to her, asking when to start measuring the lady. Tanasia replied that today the measurements should be taken off her servant. The woman started work, but she was also surprised by how the hostess's attitude toward Asan had changed. Tanasia seriously engaged in the appearance of her servant. In addition to new fashion designs, she suggested inviting a hairdresser and doing something with the boy's hair. After all, it was hard and naughty. When everything was finished, the hairdresser presented the new image of the servant to the attention of those present. The maids and Tanasia herself were amazed at how the appearance of their long-known boyfriend had changed. He became not just handsome, but actually an enviable gentleman. Tanasia said that the investment in Askana justified itself 100%. She ordered the clothes to be brought to his new room. After that, the girl invited the servant to have dinner with her, because she was sure that he was hungry after this stormy day. The girl noticed that it was uncomfortable for him to use a knife and fork. She asked him to practice using these utensils more, because he will need them in the future, because now they will mostly eat together. After dinner, Tanasia offered to go for a walk so that the food would be better digested, and it would be quite nice to just spend time together. Although usually Asan is probably used to a different way of spending time with her than the previous one. The landlady watched his reaction. She didn't expect his attitude to change too quickly, but treating him well and seeing new things could melt the ice in his heart at least a little. But nothing worked. It seemed that he had no feelings left at all. The girl regretted that she took up this issue quite late, but now she will purposefully use the slightest chance to establish a common contact. They went for a walk to the garden together. The garden was impressive in its size, and it took a long time to walk through it. The tangle of paths could even confuse a first-time visitor to this paradise for plants. The girl pointed to 2 stumps left from the trees. You could sit and relax on them. Tanasia said that this place offers a magical view of the stars. The boy should also have looked at the sky. After looking at the sky, the boy asked the hostess why she decided to change her approach. She did not immediately understand what her companion meant. Asan said that he remembers the words about taking the power from Noxia. Or, when you can't do anything about it, you need to get rid of Noxia itself. But even though she asked him about it, the boy refused the crime, because he did not think that it was necessary to commit a crime, even in relation to his own sister. Tanasia realized that when she cannot fully master the picture, she cannot build a line of behavior further. Everything should be clarified. Learn about your plans for your sister and issues related to her. She asked to forgive her. Asan did not expect this. The girl said that she caused him many problems with her behavior. Her treatment of him was very bad, even worse than that of a wild beast. Therefore, Tanasia asked to forgive her for the words and actions that she did. The hostess said that after falling from the horse, it is very difficult for her to remember certain details of how she treated Asan and what cruel things she did to him. She was very ashamed of the past, and her hatred for her sister went somewhere. She does not wish her harm. Now she didn't care about her sister's abilities, and Tanasia asked him to forget about the order she gave the boy regarding Noxia. The girl promised that she would no longer bother the boy, and her treatment of him would change radically. For the better, of course. Asan did not believe her words. He said it would have been easier for him if she had beaten and trampled him, as it was with them usually. These words were very pleasant to the girl, because in fact, it was not she who did such terrible things to him. The boy's distrust was quite deep. The girl was very upset that none of the ways she tried to deepen the relationship between them worked. There was even an idea to leave everything as it is. Tanasia wondered if she could escape death if she herself ran away to some remote lost place and lived out the rest of her life there. But she remembered Holland, the head of their family of aristocrats, and thought that he would definitely not leave her alone. In addition, it will be difficult for a 15-year-old girl to survive alone in unknown lands where anything can happen. Is it possible to change one's fate? This is exactly the question that has haunted Tanasia recently. The girl was sitting in class. She was addressed by a teacher named Matella. The woman offered to concentrate on the task and not to be distracted by various trifles. But in reality, it was difficult to do, because she did not hear anything from the material. The girl decided to at least pretend that she was interested. But when she realized that the task was actually very simple, she calculated everything in her head. The teacher looked at her in confusion and was surprised by the quick mathematical operations. To the teacher's question, Tanasia showed the way she thought was best to solve this problem. The woman is sure that her student was not gifted with mathematical abilities. She could not believe that she had calculated so quickly. Metella looked at the decision with surprise and delight. She understood that it was simply brilliant. She had never doubted the girl's mathematical abilities, but this was extraordinary. She constantly praised her student. The woman emphasized that Tanasia was usually very stubborn, and it was rarely possible to prove something to her or convince her of something. But today, the student's efforts exceeded all expectations. It was necessary to develop the skills of a daughter of an aristocratic family. The teacher added books with various tasks, trying to check what all of this was unknown to her pupils. Tanasia looked carefully at the books, and when the girl said that everything was clear, Metella said that there were magic formulas written in the book. The peculiarity of this task was that they had not yet considered magic formulas in their tasks, and this meant that the girl had a natural talent for calculating formulas and reading records of a magical nature. Tanasia said that everything in the books was familiar to her and self-explanatory. She remembered seeing magical formulas and symbols hanging on Asan's back. She tried to read them and understand their content for further experiments. Somewhere deep in her soul, she understood that before entering Tanasia's body, the girl revealed the secret of the magic formulas that were in Asan's tattoos. And I understood in which direction the experiments should be continued. But Tanasia was not going to develop her talent. She was completely focused on her relationship with Noxia. In pursuit of this desire, she could miss everything that had to do with her talent. So you could miss a whole life. She should have focused on the talent she had and not chase who knows what in an effort to outdo her sister or anyone else. It is necessary to develop skills and abilities. The teacher said that the girl could become the best in the whole empire. Of course, when she was not going to hide her talent. However, the head of the Brel family will be happy to learn about his daughter's hidden talent. He will certainly provide any support for the development of her talents and inclinations. Tanasia said that the woman can tell the head of the family about it. She will be happy to see him happy. In her mind, the girl believed that it was really worth developing her talent and not following the storyline of her heroine. It was another chance to cheat fate. New opportunities finally appeared on the horizon. Therefore, a feeling of hope for the best was revived. The only thing that was disconcerting was that she could not reveal her secret and share her secret with anyone. You need to find a way to deal with all the problems yourself. But this feeling still did not give full confidence in one's abilities. I wanted to feel my kindred soul next to me. But when you remember everything about her character, everything falls into place. Someone called Tanasia. There was no mistaking that voice for anyone else's. It was Sister Noxia. She was the main character of the novel, and therefore it was worth remembering as much as possible about her. As already mentioned, this was not an ordinary girl. Asan came to Tanasia's aid. He asked the girl if she was okay. The boy hands her a handkerchief. The girl thanked for the help and care. Before that, a ball from the water hit the boy and his mistress. Noxia apologized and said that she did not do it on purpose. In addition, she warned about the bullet that flew straight into her sister. It was strange that the venerable Noxia should apologize to her ordinary sister. Tanasia was wiping herself with a handkerchief given to her by a servant. She recalled that such a scene was also in the original novel. The servant asked to show his abilities to Noxia, and the sister lost control over the elements because she was nervous. The sister asked Noxia if it was really an accident. If this is true, then she does not resent her. But she warned that you should no longer train in places where guests or family members are not walking. The maids approached the sisters and said that Noxia was not guilty and there was no need to punish her. They took all the blame for the fact that they asked to show the skills of mastering the element of water, and Noxia herself answered that she did not think about others. Tanasia asked sternly if they were aware of their guilt. The girls answered in unison that this would not happen again. The sister added that there was no need to ask Noxia for such a thing again, because she cannot refuse due to her too soft character. The girl asked if I should explain again. The maid said they got it right the first time. Noxia said she was very grateful to her sister for accepting the apology. She did not understand what was being said, but she agreed. Tanasia said that you can't thank for such little things. Noxia could not recognize her sister now. The sister said that it was time for her to go because the servants were waiting and they had important matters that should be resolved soon. Noxia saw her sister's expression change. She thought that she had made another mistake and disappointed or angered her sister again. This day was full of strange events. But the strangest thing was her sister's new behavior. When Tanasia was alone with the servant, she asked him to take off his top. The boy did not expect such an order. He was confused by the request. Although, remembering the past, there was nothing extraordinary in this. The girl looked at his back. She was covered in scars and wounds. Tanasia realized that almost all of them were drawn by her hand. Although she did not mean it, she felt ashamed and felt sorry for Asan. It was necessary to use the medicine before it was too late. Asan knelt down. Tanasia finally found a glass with healing ointment. The girl did not immediately understand what the young man was doing, but he replied that she herself ordered to undress, and so now a new execution will begin. And then she remembered a scene from her dream. There she whipped the boy with a whip, leaving deep wounds on his body. They supplemented those already scarred on his back, and this time he also thought that there would be something similar. Tanasia took the jar of salve. She began to rub Asan's back. The boy did not expect such a turn of events. He frowned. The girl asked him not to move and not to be afraid. The medicine was supposed to protect against infection, and that's why it stings a little. She was well aware that her kindness could do nothing to change the boy's attitude towards her. However, saving life became her main goal, and all means were necessary on this path. Kindness to Asan was one of the steps to a future in which she should feel comfortable and safe. But something else scared her. The girl herself was not against helping the boy and touching her wounds. Tanasia lost sleep. Once again, all her thoughts were about saving lives. Maybe she needs to act more globally. Try to protect the country from war with your soaps. If the clash between the empires does not happen, then she may not suffer. Her purpose will remain intact, avoiding the total destruction of each of her members. And Tanasia herself will remain under the protection of her relatives. And the commander of the enemy army Asan will leave her alive. Everything was in the hands of the girl herself. If she protects him from capture, then no one will put cruel experiments on him. And in this way, Tanasia will save the boy and herself from a terrible participation in the upcoming war. Asan played a decisive role. The main question was how she should use her abilities. At the moment, she had no idea about this plan. A servant interrupted her from her thoughts. Tanasia asked if everything was okay and what the servant wanted from her. The girl said that the head of the family wanted to invite her daughter to breakfast. The aristocrat's daughter was confused because in her memory such a thing had not happened for a long time. The meeting with her father was only to happen for the first time after she entered her body. The girl was nervous because she did not know what to expect. Olin Breloff had a very good character and was an intelligent and resourceful person. It was through his efforts that the reputation of their families rose so high. Despite his business acumen and the image of a busy businessman, he was a very kind and caring father to his daughters. All the same, everything should have gone well, without vicissitudes. The main thing for Tanasia was to behave quite naturally and not have any constraints regarding behavior. The father congratulated his daughter. The girl thought that her father was too young to look. There were rumors about his early wedding with his wife. The man asked if the girl had a lot of work today, to which she replied that everything was fine, and she canceled everything in order to be able to spend more time with him, and she prepared a gift for her father. Holland examined the gift. He liked it, and the father praised his daughter for the skillfully done work. Metella had already told him about her daughter's magical abilities. The man emphasized that Tanasia should have seriously thought about the future. He will support her endeavors in every possible way and provide any resources for her pursuits. The girl thought that just for this, he could come to her room himself and talk about it. Noxia congratulated her sister on her success. Noxia said that a ball was soon to be held in honor of the crown prince, and it will be very good when Tanasia wears the chain that her father gave her to this event. but the girl was not tensed because of that. The main male character is the Crown Prince Roel de France Arwen was supposed to meet with Noxia. It was then that tender feelings for each other should have arisen between them. This will later develop into love in adulthood. Tanasia was a thief, so she put a lot of effort into preventing these two from being together. The girl tried to separate them at any cost. But now she understood that if you do not interfere with them, the probability of survival increases several times. Tanasia offered her sister to take her chain. Noxia begged to forgive her because she did not say that she wanted to take the jewelry for herself, but she calmed her down and told her not to worry about it. The girl added that she would help Noxia choose a suitable dress. Tanasia thought that she should not stand out from the crowd. This should make the first meeting of the heroes more romantic and memorable. Noxia asked if her sister would help her choose a dress, but she agreed and said that she is always ready to help her sister. Father was glad that they had such a good relationship. He assured that he would not have to sacrifice the decoration. The man ordered to prepare another ornament for his second daughter. Noxia asked her sister when they could start looking for a new dress. Tanasia answered that at any convenient time for the girl. The father added that the details would be discussed over dinner. Asan fled through the dark forest. He was trying to run away from something as quickly as possible. However, he did not succeed. A group of men in dark hoods blocked his way. One of them asked if the boy really expected to escape from them so easily. Kaluna's empire, before or after death. Asan dreamed of all this. From the moment of his escape from the secret laboratory, dreams did not leave him for a single night. He could not rest properly even after escaping from the enemy country. But the scoundrels who mocked him did not leave him even in the spring. It was very hard to bear. The torture of his mistress was added to everything. But when her whims come to an end, he will be forced to return to his former place. And therefore it makes no sense for him to wait and postpone his dark business for later. He recalled how he tried to leave the family after his true identity was revealed. He was only stopped by the fact that it was difficult for spies from Kowloon to penetrate the territory of the estate of such a prominent noble family, and therefore at the moment it was much safer here. He had to prepare for the road during this time. The guy came to this house only because he saw an opportunity here. Now he had to wait for the right moment. Asan always pursued his goal and did not retreat from it. Now he will do the same. The next day, two boys met him in the corridor. They asked how the dog feels after he got a new position. After all, now he walks the corridors of the palace and does not even say hello. Asan must have forgotten who he was recently. He decided not to answer because it was clear that it was a provocation. The boys didn't like it. They called him a tall scumbag. The only thing that stopped him from further abuse was that he could complain to the hostess. But one of Asan's acquaintances could not resist and hit him on the head with a key. He warned Tanasia's servant to keep his mouth shut. Asan said he didn't mean to do that, and to attack from behind was low and insidious. The boy added that it was because of them that he soiled his new clothes. The boys did not expect such a turn of events and such words from this young man. They didn't hesitate to ask if he really thought rags made him a noble. They continued to taunt him, saying that he really hoped to live such a full life for a very long time. But the guys are sure that soon it will just be thrown away as junk. Asan has long been considered insane. Asan remembered what the professor had told him about his ability to destroy everything around him. This could happen if the boy lost the ability to control his abilities. For a long time, he did not even think about the fact that he could take a life even just by the power of his thought. But it was very difficult to control, and in the event that he begins to release this power, he will not be able to stop and will destroy everything around him. He usually didn't get angry and tried to always keep calm. However, sometimes life situations drove him crazy. Asan kept everything to himself, otherwise everything could end very tragically and terribly for those around him. Tanasia, who appeared out of nowhere, intervened in the conversation. She turned to the boys who were mocking Asan. The girl asked, and when was she supposed to leave her servant to his own devices? And she added that it is not clothes and status that make a person, but manners. Tanasia told the boy that she was forced to look for him due to certain changes in her schedule. But here she witnessed more interesting things. Offenders began to make excuses and said that they did not mean anything bad. Tanasia said that they should apologize not to her, but to Asan. After all, he was injured with a key that was thrown after the boy. Asan replied that nothing terrible had happened and there was no need to apologize to him. Tanasia said that she has a very bad temper, and therefore you should not touch what belongs to her, and if the boys decide to continue disobeying her, they will regret it very much. And now they can get out of her sight. Asan was feeling. The boy replied that everything is generally normal, and the wound is not critical. But Tanasia objected and said that he belonged to her, and therefore it was worth knowing everything about his condition. And therefore the aristocrat ordered that he should not even think of being injured by someone, because then he would bring harm to her. And it was not a request, it was an order, and now they have to go, because they have very little time. The boy asked where they were going. Of course, Tanasia did not answer him. The only thing that Asan understood was that the girl promised her sister help in choosing a dress for the ball. The young man said that in that case he could treat the wound himself. Tanasia asked what it could be about when he needs to look for a suit for a formal evening. The boy could not understand what kind of changes in character had taken place. After all, earlier he was even afraid to imagine what could happen to him. The girls looked together at Asan in his new outfit. They understood that the money spent on the boy was not in vain. Everything that was bought for him was very suitable for the boy. Noxia did not hide her admiration for the young man. And then, the whole trio moved to the most difficult stage. They began to choose a dress for Noxia. Tanasia finally found a suitable option. Her sister praised the girl's good taste. Finally, the campaign for clothes is over. But then they remembered that the dress for Tanasia had not been chosen. The girl liked shopping and trips to the shops, but now they did not have time for this. One of the women who sewed dresses turned to her. She said that she has something for the elder Berloof. The woman said that she had chosen a set of dresses especially for Tanasia. When the girl herself looked at this collection, she realized that in her past life she was completely focused on the tastes of Noxia, trying to imitate her famous sister even in this. The girl pointed to a dress model that she really liked. This dress was radically different from all that the woman offered. The maid offered to try it on, but the girl replied that she was sure of her choice regarding the size. The woman promised to quickly pack the shopping. For now, they can wait. The servant promised to bring tea for the two young ladies. Finally, the girl brought cold tea for Tanasia. The aristocrat noticed how nervous the maid was. Tanasia thought that the girl was too tense, as for a maid who just had to bring tea for guests. But suddenly, the tray fell out of the girl's hands. Tea spilled on her dress. Noxia ordered something to be brought to clean the dress. The girl noticed that the hem of the dress was completely wet. Expectedly for her, Asan began to wipe the spilled tea from her dress. He asked if the lady had been injured by the shards of the cup. Tanasia said that everything is fine, she just poured herself. The boy finally wiped the hem of his dress. He said that the stains cannot be removed, but the unpleasant feeling will disappear. Tanasia felt strange. She wasn't used to such bypassing by the boy, although it was perfectly normal for a servant. Until this moment, she had only seen Asan's cautious side. And although now he is already acting as a faithful servant should act, but his behavior somehow disturbed her. It was very kind of him to come to her aid at such a time. The girl put her hand on Asan's head, but she quickly took it away and said that she had done it unconsciously. The servant seemed really nice to her. She thought she had very strange tastes in boys. At this time, the maid and her mistress stood in front of the lady and asked to be excused for such behavior. The woman believed that it was all her fault because she did not prepare her staff well. Tanasia asked if everything would end with the usual apology. The woman assured that everything would be compensated. You just have to let her know what she wants. Tanasia said that they will pay for the services of cleaning the dress and shoes, and if the stain is not removed from the dress, they will send a new one for free. The owner of the salon replied that it was not even discussed, and she asked if there would be any punishments, like last time. The girl did not understand. The landlady reminded that last time the culprit was beaten with whips. Is it worth doing it today? Now Tanasia understood everything. Why was the girl who brought the tea shaking so much? The poor thing was just really scared and nervous about it. Of course, the character of the current Tanasia was not a gift, but the past Tanasia generally beat people and bullied her. No one would have thought that she personally beat the servants who indulged her desires. Of course, it was worth atoning for his guilt. After all, she was now in a very difficult situation. The vector of behavior had to imperceptibly change in the other direction. She wondered what Asan was thinking at such a moment. And what happened to Noxia, who froze in anticipation of her sister's decision. Are they so familiar with the situation that now they know about her decision and reaction? Deep in her soul, she wanted to say that it was not she who did this to the servants. But it should not have been done. A number of reasons did not contribute to such a confession. Tanasia asked the woman not to apologize and not to say too much. According to the lady, there will be no punishment today. She also wondered if there were any people left that she had punished before. The landlady assured that there are no such ones here. After all, immediately after their punishment, measures are taken. Tanasia said that this would no longer be necessary, and you can return everyone to their workplaces and pay compensation, and therefore they may not pay for the cleaning of the dress and other procedures. This time she will deal with this issue herself. The store owner's reaction was ambiguous. The woman could not believe what Tanasia was telling her. The girl herself understood that she needed to get used to such a reaction after the actions and orders of her ex. People are not ready for such changes. The hostess and all the servants expressed their gratitude to the young Lady Brelov. They were ready to see her in the store and would always be at her service. Noxia did not recognize her sister, and the servant girl could not believe her happiness. She will not be punished and will not be released. The maid thought that what could happen was that Tanasia Brelov, once so strict, took pity on her and refused to punish her, as it happened before. The number of those who paid for their carelessness was too great. The hostess said that they would not be able to understand what the aristocrats were thinking about. Maybe something good happened at Lady Brelov today. Everyone saw how that young boy rushed to her, but the changes were too drastic. The girls arrived home. Tanasia said that she will not get out of the carriage, but wants to ride one more lap. Noxia thanked for the help and got ready to go to her rooms. The girl herself thought about what she had done in her past life, that everyone was so terrified of her. Among all the bad and evil deeds, there was not even the slightest thing left that could rehabilitate her in the eyes of other people. But among them, there were not exactly those that she would have committed. It was necessary to find a way to protect oneself from past sins. Tanasia paid attention to Asan, who stayed with her in the carriage. She thought that it was necessary to let him go with Noxia. After all, now you need to focus on thinking about your actions. But the boy sat silently and gloomily in front of her. The girl asked if he wanted to talk about something. Asan said that he does not understand her current actions. And why is she behaving like that? After all, everyone notices that it is too strange for her. He was interested in the true intentions and motives of the aristocrat. Tanasia wondered what contributed to the emergence of such strange thoughts. Maybe he liked the way the lady put her hand on his head. It was necessary to be careful at such moments so as not to cause aggression on the part of the boy. By the way, the guy's reaction was similar when she showed him the starry night sky. At first, it seemed that he was not ready for such serious and rapid changes, but the reason is actually not only that. The girl was not going to give up. The lady realized that she had forgotten one thing: why Asan behaved like that. This detail was very important. In the novel, he was the greatest thief, and now in front of her is an ordinary boy. And that was important. Tanasia said that in the future she will make even more efforts to do good for Asan. The boy understood this ambiguously thrown phrase. The girl rejoiced at the effect her words had. The maids ran up to Noxia. They asked what happened, although mentally the girls were ready to hear the already familiar phrase. Everyone was sure that Tanasia just wanted to flatter herself by helping her choose a dress. Noxia could not understand such a reaction to her sister. The servant went on to say that Lady Noxia's sister must have chosen the most hideous dress for her sister, and again, the reason was supposed to be jealousy. She ordered not to speak like that about Tanasia. After all, everything happened quite the opposite. Her sister chose the most beautiful dress among those that could be offered in the store, and the lady no longer wanted to hear anything bad about her own sister, no matter what. The girls still did not believe Noxia. All of them were preparing for some meanness on the part of Tanasia, and their hostess was simply very kind, so she did not want to speak badly about Nasia. There were rumors that she planned to ruin the ball gown. Here, Noxia could believe the words of the servants. More than once it happened that she found herself in bad situations because of her sister. And often it didn't look like an accident. Tanasia could do something special on purpose. But now her sister seems to have been replaced. What is worth the reaction to how she threw water on her during training, or the way she behaved at the table in a conversation with her father, or attitude towards your servant? Even in choosing a dress, she was guided by the good of her sister. She did not remember such kindness from Tanasia since the time when she had awakened the ability to control the element of water. There was even a possibility that they would become close to each other again. That's why you shouldn't talk bad about her anymore. Noxia believed that her sister was trying to change. The servant noticed changes in the younger Bertol's mood. And that's why they came to terms with the fact that from now on, we should forget about Tanasia's criticism and her evil and vile intentions towards everyone's beloved youngest. Tanasia thought about how she was usually compared to her younger sister. Everyone around talked about the fact that the older one from Bertol had no chance compared to her talented sister. The words sounded a little offensive. In addition, it was said that all the genes of good aristocratic blood went to the younger of the sisters, while the older had to be satisfied with what was left to her from the younger. The maid came to Tanasia. She asked if she would make fun of her too. Tanasia took the servant by the hand and pulled her along. Apologies were not enough for her. The lady warned that there would be trouble if the servant thought to shout. It was a strange dream again, which talked about Tanasia's past life. It seemed that she was a maniac. Tanasia's room. She asked if nothing was wrong, as the lady looked sickly. The girl asked if the young lady had a terrible dream. This maid's name was Jaren, and she served the elder Breloff for a long time. Tanasia said that she had a terrible vision, and the servant advised to forget the terrible thing, because it was just an ordinary dream. Besides, today there was to be a ball in the royal palace, and many good and extraordinary things were to happen. The young lady thought that a significant event was really going to happen today. Noxia must meet the crown prince. In the future, this meeting will grow into something more significant. What could go wrong and harm her in this line of the novel? It was necessary to behave quietly and not to give any signs to others. Tanasia will simply watch Asan and the ball, and everyone present. Such a simple plan was supposed to help and implement the love line of the novel. Tanasia took too much time to prepare for the festivities. The number and duration of the procedures tired her out a lot. The desire to go to the ball disappeared by itself. But this could not be avoided. She did not have time to leave the house, as she already wants to return. Asan was already waiting for her. He made a pleasant impression of a gentleman. No one could say that he is a simple servant. The boy had the appearance of an aristocrat or a nobleman. Tanasia asked how long he had been waiting for her. The young man said that it would not be long. The girl praised Asan's beautiful clothes. He replied that it was all her merit, and he simply put on the outfit she bought. The lady replied that clothes simply emphasize a pleasant appearance, and the beauty of the young man shines even more. Tanasia told him not to pretend that no one had ever complimented him on his looks and beauty. Asan said that the lady is very direct and does not think long before saying this. From the carriage that just now came up to the couple, shouted Noxia. She made it clear that she had been waiting for a long time to meet her sister and had something to say or tell her. It was strange that they usually traveled separately. But this time was supposed to be special. Tanasia said that it makes no sense to ride separately. After all, they are sisters of such a majestic and powerful family. It would be strange to go to the royal ball alone. This would give rise to new gossip. The ladies and gentlemen present talked about the Breloff sisters who entered the hall. Rumors and lies spread around the hall about these girls. The younger one was called Light, and the older one was called Shadow. It reminded Tanasia of the dream she had last night. Now she wanted to understand why Tanasia was traveling in a separate carriage. It seemed that the guests specially started whispering when Tanasia was next to them, or passed by them. It was very angry, but you can't give any slack. The girl understood that it was necessary to tell Noxia to go for a walk by herself, because in this way she could meet the prince faster. Tanasia said that she should go to the balcony, and her sister can walk around the hall and meet someone. The young lady wanted something to drink to clear her mind, and it was worth finally leaving Asan alone. After all, it would be very suspicious for her to keep a servant so close. She ordered him to stay and wait for her. The boy was left alone. He heard that the girls nearby were whispering about the bad appearance of the eldest of the Breloff sisters. They even noticed the bad expression on Tanasia's face, as if she was very angry with the whole world. People talked about the fact that everyone has extraordinary abilities reached Noxia. Tanasia also copied her sister even in the fact that she wore similar jewelry. No one even thought that the bad older sister herself suggested her to the younger one. No one understood why they continued to copy such trivial things. Such things were said by the cream of that royal society. Asan couldn't understand what people spend part of their lives on, before whom such prospects open up. In the meantime, he remembered how the scientists who were conducting experiments on children in the future spoke about him and orphans like him. Nobody cared that these children would die. After all, everything was done for the benefit of the motherland and society. The guy saw how Tanasia explained to someone that it is not necessary to tell various bad rumors about her, and when she finds out that someone tried to listen to her, they will be in awe. And it didn't matter who was the one who spoke disgustingly about her. Asan and the girl were left alone. She suggested that we go out of this room and go for a walk in the garden. It was necessary to calm down a little, otherwise she could lose control and become the real Tanasia. Asan asked the girl if she really wanted to tear the mouths of anyone who dared to talk about her or spread bad gossip. The lady assured that she would definitely not do that. The servant asked if it was a lie then. Tanasia replied that it was not a lie, but a warning. After all, some people understand only coarse language, and it is difficult for them to behave like real people and not stick their nose into other people's affairs. The young lady asked if Asan was really afraid of her. The boy's answer stunned her. He was certain that his mistress could do such a thing. The girl said that he had the gift of taking words and language from his interlocutor. She asked how her servant was, if he liked being present. Asan said that the atmosphere is quite oppressive, and he does not see anything special in such measures. Tanasia hoped that the ball would make an impression on her servant, so she took it with her. I could just lie. The boy thought that a strange situation had arisen. After all, the eldest daughter of the Breloff family, who always created problems at home, actually became the object of ridicule for other nobles at this ball. In an aristocratic society, only the strong are loved. The weak were usually simply trampled, and Tanasia at this stage belonged to the weak. But when the girl unexpectedly resisted all those who dared to mock her, her position changed for the better. It seemed that her words touched his persecutors as well. At that moment, Asan felt an unusual feeling. He even took some pleasure in the way his mistress talked to many nobles and aristocrats. They did not even dare to tell her anything. He did not like the place. However, this situation completely satisfied him. He was stunned by the hostess's display of strength. There was something unusual about it, and so attractive and primordially formidable. Tanasia heard voices. She grabbed Asan and knocked him to the ground. The young lady ordered to be silent so as not to betray herself. The voices were getting closer and louder. Two men were talking. Tanasia heard voices. She grabbed Asan and knocked him to the ground. The young lady ordered to be silent so as not to betray herself. The voices were getting closer and louder. Two men were talking. And so it was the prince himself who was to inherit the throne. His acquaintance said that friendship with Lady Breloff was to be needed in the future. The girl understood that it was one of the characters of The Beloved Saint, Prince Roel, and his companion was the faithful vassal Ryhald, to whom the prince told that today they did not have time for games and chats. His true desire was to make the Arwen Empire the most powerful state, to instill fear and respect in each of its enemies. Ryhald said that in this case, it is absolutely necessary to enlist the support of the Breloff family. The prince replied that he didn't want to be around Lady Breloff on the day of his birthday ceremony and spend his time making fun of her. Tanasia understood that she must not reveal the fact of her presence under any circumstances. After all, she actually overheard the conversation of the ruler and his vassal, and the content of the conversation could affect the relationship between the prince and the Breloff family. Asan and Tanasia were going to quietly get out of this place when Noxia approached them. She was glad to see her sister and asked what she was doing in this place. The older sister could not change anything and shut the mouth of the public's favorite. The prince and his servant thought that no one should have left the banqueting hall and wandered about the garden at such a time. They were both looking at the thicket of bushes behind which they heard a commotion and voices. It was necessary to beware of spies and scent people. Noxia greeted Prince Reynold. She introduced herself and introduced her older sister. Both of them were descendants of the famous Brel family. When Noxia did not find her sister in the hall, she went in search of the garden. The prince said that they could accidentally hear a conversation that could be interpreted quite differently than it seems at first glance. It seemed that the future monarch was justifying himself to the girl. Noxia replied that she had not heard anything. She reminded that at her age these games are no longer played. But she heard something about the fact that the prince is not going to hang around anyone. Tanasia could not understand why her sister was saying this. After all, it is difficult to imagine the consequences of these words. Noxia said she apologized, but it was time for her and her sister to return to the other guests. Once again, the girl congratulated the boy on his birthday and went with her sister to the room. The prince did not know what to answer. His plan was about to unfold. Tanasia, in turn, thought that it was a disaster. She planned to bring this couple together and watch from the sidelines the consequences of their meeting, which was supposed to end in strong, strong love. But now it was not possible to do it. Noxia couldn't believe that a prince could talk such nonsense. Tanasia asked if everything was okay with her sister. The girl replied that a little earlier, many guests approached her and tried to talk nonsense about her sister. This made her very angry. The younger sister said that she got very angry and broke the glass and left. She was very worried about Tanasia. Now it was clear why the sister reacted so to Roll's words. Tanasia was grateful for the care. Their relationship could not be allowed to fall apart or not happen at all. Tanasia said that maybe they misunderstood and confused something together. The younger one looked at her sister. She was confused about what they wanted to hear from her. Tanasia said that the prince is very worried about what will happen in the future, and Noxia and the Brel family were to occupy a leading place in his plans. In order for the empire to become stronger, ties between the noble families and the monarch had to be preserved. But even in this way, it is difficult to please everyone. After all, each family considered themselves higher than their familiar aristocrats, and everyone emphasized their uniqueness in different ways. Noxia said that the prince's look did not bode well. The elder sister said that one should not judge a person with such ambitions as Reynolds by trifles heard by chance and taken out of the general context. In addition, since childhood, he was simply a brilliant person. From the age of 5, the prince was engaged in fencing and achieved significant success in this. His strategic thinking played a big role in his plans for the throne. None of the aristocrats or nobles could win over him in verbal battles yet. Besides, he was very handsome. His eyes were simply beautiful, and his lips resembled the petals of a beautiful flower that bloomed in early spring. It is enough for him to look at the ladies of the capital so that they fall head over heels in love with him. Noxia replied that she had heard all the gossip about him. Tanasia said that in such a case, the sister should have known about the outstanding future that awaited this boy. He had almost everything, and such a person could not help but have huge ambitions. Noxia asked if she liked His Majesty that much. The older sister said that she does not feel anything like that. She simply said that the younger one should not avoid his company and respond favorably to his advances. The youngest of the sisters said that if necessary, she is ready to do anything for the sake of her family. Tanasia said that it would be better for everyone, and that's why you should hurry, because the prince might think something bad about their manners. Miss Tiaru approached the girls. Noxia was not happy with this company. An acquaintance asked the youngest of the sisters to demonstrate her power of mastering the element of water, and this is waiting for a lot of people. After these words, Tanasia remembered the plot of the novel. The attachment between Roll and Noxia was formed for a reason. The second-rate thief from the novel was to blame for everything. This person wanted to humiliate the younger Breloff, and during the demonstration of abilities, she specially set off a firecracker. During the performance, Noxia was very frightened by a loud explosion. After that, she splashed water in different directions, and it hit the guests. And the one who protected Noxia itself from the water was Prince Roll, and Tanasia planned to watch the romantic scene. But if the plan fails and everything deviates from the script, then she simply will not be able to influence the future in any way. and her life directly depended on this. Therefore, the girl suggested that her younger sister talk to the prince first, and then start the performance. Tiaru said that everyone had already waited, and the prince will come to the hall in any case because he also heard about the upcoming performance or demonstration of abilities. Noxia said that Lady Tiaru was right and it was worth going back. They will talk already in the hall. Tanasia agreed. She told Noxia to return to the hall, and she will come a little later. She has one important thing to do. The girl turned to Asan and asked to find Lady Krisha in the hall and tell her that Tanasia was waiting for her. Liana and Tanasia had in common the fact that they hated Noxia. Now is the time to enlist the support of an ally who himself was unaware of his role in Tanasia's future plans, and Taru is already preparing to use the firecracker. The villain will be helped by her servant. And that's why you need to buy time and warn everyone, and prevent something terrible from happening. The young lady asked Asan if he remembered the lady who often visited their estate and was their guest. The girl asked to keep this young lady in one place, no matter what it was worth. Their future directly depended on this. The guy replied that everything will be done. Tanasia asked, not ordered. The servant was surprised at such manners. He replied that he would do everything possible for this. Now Tanasia had to find the prince and talk to him. He should have turned his attention to Noxia and taken an interest in her company. The girl hoped that her plan would succeed. Tanasia hoped to the last that everything would go as it should. However, this time she was wrong on all fronts. A minute before what happened, she was looking everywhere for the prince. He ended up in the wrong place where he should be according to the plot. The girl thought that in this world the plot can change regardless of the circumstances. Tanasia approached the company in which the prince was. The monarch's companions recognized her as Brelov's older sister. This was enough for her to interest Roel. The prince asked if something too necessary had brought her to him. The lady said that recently a not very pleasant situation arose between them, and she intended to discuss her. The prince was happy because now he had the opportunity to explain his words. He suggested that the three of them talk together with Noxia. They went in search of the girl, and the younger Brelov has already started to show her capabilities. Everyone around was very happy and behaved like children in the circus. Asan fulfilled the task of the hostess. In this case, Noxia should not be ashamed in public. The prince was amazed by the water magic possessed by the younger sister. He watched her carefully. The incident in the garden should have been forgotten and worked on. But Tanasia did see a servant in the crowd with a firecracker in his hands. The girl asked the prince for forgiveness, but she had an urgent need to leave on business. The prince said that he does not mind, but will watch the play because he considers it interesting. Tanasia offered to stay closer in this case. After all, she had a bad feeling. The servant was about to use the firecracker, but Leana was not here, and Roel is too far from Noxia. The lady offered to stand in front of her. The young lady understood that it was necessary to get closer to her sister in order to be able to protect her from the encroachment of the servant of her bitter enemy. There were seconds left before the firecracker would be used, and the number of meters for the prince to close Noxia, but the plan failed. The girl was so nervous that her hands were shaking. The prince, being completely covered in water, said that it was actually thought out. After all, such a coincidence was hard to imagine. Tanasia said she was just scared. Roel said that even 10 mouths would not be enough for him to forgive her for such an act. It is worth thinking about how to punish an arbitrary girl. He will not believe Tanasia's excuses for anything. Noxia hurried to her sister and the prince. The younger sister accused the prince of not believing that it was an accident. Roel was offended because he was considered a complete fool here if they thought that he would buy into their words. He emphasized that the joint work of the sisters is simply amazing. First, one brings him closer to the scene. Then he pushes in the back, and the other releases water to meet it. It was worked out very coherently and intelligently. Noxia said that words without evidence are lies. The prince said that the victim of the plot was standing right in front of them. What else is needed to justify it? Tanasia asked for words. She said that the prince simply misunderstood her sister. The girl wanted to improve the situation. However, the prince and Noxia declared in one voice that she should not enter into the conversation now. They themselves have to come to a certain consensus. The elder sister thought that perhaps the outwardly unsuccessful action would bring the prince and Noxia even closer together. But suddenly, Tanasia thought about the fact that Asan was still not in the hall. The lady to whom she had sent him was also absent, and her servant used the chance and the firecracker to break up the demonstration. The girl asked if anyone had seen her servant. No one saw either Krisha or Asan, the girl thought. She even started to worry a little. Tanasia asked if there had been any extraordinary events recently. One of the servants said that there had been some commotion recently. Finally, Asan was found by his mistress under the door of one of the rooms. Behind the door, someone rehearsed loudly and promised that he would not get away with it just like that. The girl understood that Lady Krisha was locked up there, but it was already a turning point. Asan said that she ordered him to keep the lady at all costs, so he could not come up with anything more original. Tanasia asked how he managed to push her there. The guy said that he lied, as if an important person was waiting for the lady there. Tanasia asked if he had been standing and guarding the door all this time. The boy answered in the affirmative. After all, the time was not specified, and the task was right in front of him. But he could hardly cope with the consequences, so he waited for his mistress. The guy asked if he did everything right or if he made a mistake somewhere. The landlady praised him for his initiative. She is amazed that the servant fulfilled all the orders and instructions of the mistress in such detail. He said that this was his first time. A scream and loud noises were heard from behind the door. The boy said that Lady Krisha started throwing things at the door in an attempt to get out of her confinement. It was impossible to postpone and keep her there any longer. It is worth releasing. Tanasia knocked on the door and said it was her. Liana did not expect that her friend would be able to do this to her. When the elder Brelov entered the room, Lady Krisha was very angry. She was angry with the servant for shutting her in the little room. Lady Tanasia asked not to shout at her servant because it was she who ordered him to shut up his friend. The lady asked why she ordered this. Tanasia said that she just wanted to surprise her friend, but had to stay in the banquet hall. But Lady Krisha said she didn't believe a word Tanasia said. After all, her friend knew exactly what she planned for today. And does she really think she's a fool to believe such nonsense? Senior Brelov asked to calm down because the fireworks were successful. However, Tanasia also had a question. Why did the firecracker explode without waiting for the signal? Krisha said she ordered it to be launched, even if there was no signal. Thus, she was sure that her plan would come true. Tanasia laughed. She just couldn't believe that her friend didn't fully trust her. Although there are many insidious and vile plans in the past life and in the book, they thought out together and tried to implement them. The lady offered to return to the hall, but Krisha said that while she was not going to do that, she was busy right now, so she would join later. When Tanasia and her servant left, the girl activated her power. She had a small whirlwind on her hand. It was this power that caused her to hate Noxia. She had an ability similar to that possessed by the younger Brelov. But the level of her mastery was an order of magnitude lower, and therefore no one paid attention to her, and she remained overboard. Even her relatives and the entire family of her clan were not interested in Krishi's power. After all, she was nothing compared to the famous and popular Noxia among nobles and aristocrats. If it weren't for Noxia, the family would have recognized her, and so her plans were not destined to come true. The girl thought that Tanasia, her own sister, hated Noxia even more. The reason for that was probably the blood ties between them. But now it's time to pay her for what she did. She betrayed Krisha and her hopes. Tanasia was sitting in her room. After that incident, she fully realized one thing. Relationships between people are so complex and difficult that the slightest deviation from the norm can cause a turn in a completely unexpected direction. Because she didn't act the way it was written in the original story, Noxia didn't follow her outside. And Roel was too far for the main place of events, and even Liana Krisha began not to hide that she did not trust her. In fact, there were too many variables in the world for people not to trust each other. Something more reliable than casual acquaintances and relationships between people is needed to prevent hostilities with the Kalima Empire. The maid snapped her out of her thoughts. The girl reported that a tutor came to Tanasia. The lady said that she was very tired today and did not expect to go to class. But she still let the teacher into the room. A woman came in with a whole pile of books, which she was carrying on a cart in front of her. Tanasia asked what it was. The woman replied that these are materials that should help choose a profession for herself. The Duke himself ordered to help with this. Tanasia's father provided financial assistance to the teacher, but the girl was more interested in the terms in which she had to cope with this list of literature. The woman promised that they would have enough time to master the material. The tutor started a conversation with Tanasia. She asked the girl what she liked about it. Were there any particular questions that interested her very much and demanded a greater interest than all the others? Tanasia replied that she had not noticed anything like that behind her. The woman was confused. She showed all the materials she had brought with her. But one book did interest the girl. The teacher said it was a manual on magical engineering. The lady asked what kind of object it was. But the mentor said she had doubts, as if it would suit a girl. And that's why she independently decided to throw him out of the recommendations for a young girl. After all, this is a very complex and partially prohibited subject. Magical engineering, she said, was aimed at creating magical weapons, developing magical ways of waging war, and preparing for combat using magical artifacts by each of the warring parties. In general, this area dealt with the magical aspects of warfare and dealt with destruction and destruction, which was not something a young maiden should be taught. But Tanasia said that her choice stops there. The tutor was surprised and confused. The girl insisted that she would study magical engineering. It was this industry that interested her and drew attention to herself. It was also the last hope for her life, its preservation and protection from future encroachments. While Asan was in the Brelov family, he could not do anything with her. And while he's here, the Kaul Empire's experiments have been unsuccessful. The creation of weapons from man had to stop and not advance further, keeping the peace. But even if things don't go too well, the Kaulua Empire will still go to war against their kingdom. And by that time, she will have time to develop weapons to resist the aggression of a belligerent neighbor. The teacher tried to dissuade the girl from this direction. She said that this direction is not really very popular, and therefore she cannot recommend it for study to a young girl, the successor of a prominent family. Tanasia said that she will still study this direction, even if he is not popular at all. The girl wanted to have her own profit from him, about which no one had to find out, and the intentions were more than serious. The lady asked if they could study this area right now. The tutor said that it would be difficult to start studying this subject today because she was not an expert in this field. It is worth waiting for a prepared person to start. Tanasia answered that then it is worth looking for the most suitable specialist. The teacher was impressed by her pupil's determination and perseverance in the midst of war and destruction. This did not befit the successor of a distinguished family of aristocrats.